Hello and welcome. My side of the bag, Drew Hinesley. He's Scottie Worldwide. I
Yes,
am
sir.
in Tampa, Florida. Scottie, you are in the greater Phoenix area after just working the Ford Championship on the LPGA Tour.
That is correct. Yeah. Here, still in Phoenix. Obviously not playing the weekend, but enjoying some time here and for a couple of days off in Phoenix. So, know some good friends here, have great housing, watching a lot of college hoops and just enjoying the hot sunshine, shall we say.
Well, speaking of college hoop, how does your bracket look?
You know, it's crazy. I used to be a massive college basketball fan, and it used to be the number one thing, and so much of a fan that the 2 days that I got to stay home from school, like not being sick, were Thursday and Friday of the first rounds of the tournaments. So I enjoy the tournament so much. But Drew, in all honesty, I probably haven't filled out a bracket in 10 years. But I enjoy so much of the games, and I'll be parked on that couch come game time to watch the rest of the games this evening. So we
Well,
got had
like
St.
like you,
John's
I'd
beat
gone
was
about
great
10
last night.
years. I'd
Yeah,
gone about 10 years without filling one. I actually did fill one out this year. And I have the Arizona Wildcats. Maybe that was influenced by hanging out with Miss Pagdananan
come on.
on the Epson tour for a couple of weeks. But I've got the Arizona Wildcats beating the Duke Blue Devils in the championship game. I'm not going to talk about the rest of my bracket, but I still have my championship intact. So that won't win me any prizes. But so far, the chalk I picked is
Yeah,
working its way to the championship.
yeah. Hey, I hope that'd be a great final game, and obviously, iconic. We got the Boozer boys, so it was fun to watch them play St. John's and Bettino squad. Great game last night. So hopefully, we're in store for some more good basketball.
Yeah, a couple more good games today. All right. Big golf news. Unfortunately, yesterday afternoon, Friday afternoon, 2 p.m. I was still on the golf course working on the Corn Ferry Tour at on Skidaway Island at the landings just outside Savannah, Georgia. I was actually driving back to my friend's house where I was staying for the week, and somebody called me and said, something has happened. And so, of course, trying to drive and pay attention to the road, but
Yeah.
obviously looking at some breaking news that Tiger Woods had been involved in a car crash and that he was incarcerated in the Martin County Sheriff's Office for DUI.
Mm.
So I think we both have opinions on this, and I think we're on each side of the fence here as far as the way we look at it. I'll give you the floor first.
Sure. So yeah, same. I was on the golf course all of the morning and early lunchtime West Coast yesterday. So I didn't have my phone on after the round. I usually turn my phone off and it's in the bag in case just whatever reason. So obviously after the round turn my phone on and start seeing the news come in, and then on my 30-minute drive back to the housing, I hear that he's actually been arrested. And I think this is just a more of a tale story of where Tiger is right now and where he is with his health more than anything. Obviously, there wasn't alcohol involved, which we commonly think of DUI. But I have a guess that he is trying to ramp up his schedule, trying to, he was in full golf clothes when he was, had the accident. And I just think ultimately he's probably on a high dose of pain medication, which we know he struggled with in the past and that he's been cited for in the past. He played TGL on Tuesday night. We know how much that walk of Augusta takes on his body, which is in 2 weeks. And so again, I don't know what happened. I don't know if we ever will know what happened. But my guess is that he was amped up on some pain medication and probably taking a higher dosage than he was supposed to. And on all of those things, we talk about do not drive, do not operate machines. And obviously, he was, driving fast in a 35 mile an hour zone, and then, couldn't get out of the way of the trailer, hit it, flipped the Range Rover, and the rest is history. I think Tiger's smart enough to know what was in his body and probably didn't want all of us to know what was in his body, hence him not taking the urine test. And so I think that's kind of where we're at right now. And I think the bigger picture and the bigger thing about all of this with Tiger is I just don't think he can play golf and operate without being heavily on pain medication right now.
Okay, I agree with a couple of your points. I have spent a lot of time recently in that area, driving up and down Beach Road, driving in front of Tiger's house, going north into Martin County, going south into Palm Beach County off of
Mm.
Jupiter Island. I know those roads. The landscaping there along the roads is very tight. People have gated entrances. They have either stucco or brick, um, you know, gate post, and it's protected by hedges. People don't want just passerbyers seeing their houses. It's pretty tight, and there really isn't like an emergency lane in this area. I also know the residents there have an ability to want to enforce the speed limit themselves. And it's just, there's a lot of these folks there. There's a couple public beaches that you could drive by going 40 miles an hour and people will wave telling you, slow down, slow down. And there's a lot of people just wanting to enforce the laws very closely in that area. And there's a couple of little S curves along the island, little switchbacks where you can come up on somebody very fast. And if they're going the speed limit, maybe you're going a little quicker, you close in a hurry. And if they break it all, that that
Sure.
that space closes so fast. I also know I saw the truck that was involved. It could have been a guy didn't like the Range Rover on his bumper that close. Um, Tiger has been on pain meds for a long time due to his various injuries. Um, it was 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I have an idea about how Tiger does things. He gets up in the morning, he goes hard in the gym. I saw the pictures of him roadside, and everybody that meets me kind of talks about how big my arms are. I actually noticed how big Tiger's arms are. I thought when I looked at the picture, his arms are bigger than mine right now. He is jacked. He has muscle mass because you and I both know he actually needs to get the mass because he's going to lose it in the week before and the week of as he's working on flexibility and range of motion. He's going to lose some of that mass, but he needs it to withstand the walk as
Yeah.
well as the pain meds. So we're 3 weeks out from Augusta now,
Wow.
really 2.5. And he's in full prep mode. And we all know that. So he went hard yesterday in the gym because his muscles were swollen yesterday afternoon. And then he probably was coming back from the golf course. This is a guy, he does drive himself around. And there are times where I have taken Z-Quil in my house and then gone into the kitchen and realized, God, I need eggs and stuff for breakfast. And I'll rip down to, a mile and a half down the road, get my eggs, get back before the drowsiness of the Z-Quil will kick in.
Mm.
And I honestly think this could have happened to Tiger. He knew he was going to be sore. He was probably already feeling some pain at the club and in the locker room, pops one, knows he's got about 25, 30 minutes to get to the house before it truly kicks. And he
Yeah.
knows that the window is closing. He's behind this truck. This truck doesn't like him that close to him, this guy's trying to enforce the speed limit and maybe brake checks. And Tiger can't go right because of the landscaping and all the metal and the trees that he would encounter. And possibly wherever it was on the road, maybe you go into a mangrove swamp and your car sinks. So he goes left to try to avoid this guy and just clips him and flips his car. And if you look at the skid marks, they weren't going that fast, but we all have probably seen the demonstrations of the insurance companies dropping a car from 3 stories to mimic 30 miles an hour, and it'll mangle a car pretty good. And at 30 miles an hour, you hit another car, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
The car wasn't totaled. I think it only fell on its side and slid a bit. So
Correct.
it tells you that he was trying to avoid this guy.
Yeah.
This guy got him in the front right tire and he flipped. The fact that there is no reported injury of either driver tells you that it was way more, in my opinion, of a reckless driving incident than it was DUI. And it's been reported 0.0 on the blood alcohol content.
Yeah.
Probably on the advice of counsel, does not submit to urine or blood for one very big reason, privacy And for Tiger Woods, we all know he's been having arthroscopic knee surgeries since his early 20s. And we didn't know about this till many years later. He's very, I would say, fiercely private, especially about his medical issues. And he probably does have some very well known substances in his body that could be, given as prescriptions from his doctors, but he doesn't want anyone to know because that's how he operates. That's his
Yeah.
modus operandi, and that's fine. But on advice of counsel, they said don't submit to anything, especially since you have a zero point zero blood alcohol content. And so it was probably a reckless driving situation. And Tiger's now getting slandered thanks to his past and the incidents where he was inebriated driving.
Yeah.
And he may have been inebriated in this case and just kind of trying to skirt the timing of the medication. And he knew, okay, I just took an Oxy or a Xanax or
Yeah.
whatever he took. And he knew that was in his system. And so that will look very bad on a test. And now we can go to court. The other thing to consider about this, and I shared this with you yesterday, this is the county north of Palm Beach County where Donald Trump lives. Tiger's a friend of Donald Trump. He is in the process of planning a wedding to Donald Trump's former daughter-in-law. There is no currency in South Florida more valuable than money other than status. And the judge who's going to be overseeing this case probably wouldn't mind having the president of the United States owing him a favor. And Tiger might write a check, fund a campaign for this guy, or encourage his friend, the president of the United States, to appoint this man to the Florida Supreme Court. And this thing gets handled pretty quietly and pretty quickly. So that, again, I guarantee you the political dealing has already begun. It might go as high as the Attorney General of the U.S. I really think it's one of those Donald likes helping his friends. Tiger is a friend of the president, and that will have an impact on this case. Mark my words. But I really think it's more of a reckless driving event with a guy who has a very checkered past when it comes to driving incidents. So he's going to get zero grace from the general public and the general media. And as a recovering alcoholic, somebody who's gotten in trouble himself with that, I completely understand and I agree about not giving a pass on this. He is 50 years old. He should know better. He is a billionaire with a B. He could probably afford a chauffeur. Again, this is a fiercely private man who
Yeah.
doesn't want anyone in the world, including his chauffeur, knowing his coming and goings. So that will never happen. I think you could probably make a little stronger case if you're Mark Steinberg and his inner circle about maybe hiring a chauffeur in the future, especially when we're leading up to events like major championships, when we know he is pushing his body pretty hard and his body is pretty frail based
Sure.
on these past incidents. So I think it's a reckless driving issue that's being painted as a DUI. I don't think it's as egregious as the past incidents where we do know he was on very heavy medication while behind the wheel of the car. And I'm not forgiving what he did, but
Yeah.
I'm just trying to explain to those that are listening how, gosh, you go out and you have a couple of beers at the 19th hole with your buddies and you drive that 1.75 miles to your house within your neighborhood. And to you, that's not drinking and driving, but by the letter of the law, you broke the law, very overtly. So again, before we cast stones, let's just let the facts of this come out. The way the accident happened, and I've been in that area, and I know all the wannabe cops that live in that area that want to enforce the speed limit themselves. I've witnessed it personally. I'm a fast driver, and just because it's 35 on Beach Road, I can hum down that thing at 55, 60 if I've got some open space. And I guarantee
Yeah.
you, Tiger was trying to do the same thing. And because it is your neighborhood, he is familiar. That little switchback curve in the middle of the island that's just north of his house, he knows how to make that thing at 55 in a Range Rover.
Sure.
And he was trying to do that, and this other driver didn't allow it. And that probably only led to Tiger's angst, and it expired that guy's patience pretty fast. And I think that's how that all went down.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot there. I think ultimately this is just another setback and an embarrassing one for Tiger that, he'll have to deal with this. If for some reason he does show up in Georgia in 3 weeks, this will be the questions. So, he won't talk about it. Obviously, you mentioned how private he is. He named his boat privacy for that matter. But but yeah, it just adds to more questions and adds another, I think, dark episode or chapter, if you will, into this guy's life. And it's just like, you just hope that he can enjoy life and not have all these incidents. And for God's sake, stop driving.
Yeah, I mean he's got a pretty thick tabloid history now, and this will add to that at least in the short term. I really hope we can get around the corner here soon, and it may take a state of the game kind of talk from Chairman Fred Ridley at the Masters to maybe bring out a few more of these facts. And they have defended him in the past. They have chastised him in the past at Augusta. So because this is happening, and it will be a question a lot of the competitors will get. Guys like JT, guys
Yeah.
like Ricky Fowler, guys like Brooks Koepka. I know Brooks lives on the Intercoastal, and DJ, they live on the kind of across the water, but they're very familiar with all these roads, and they will get pointed questions saying, how could this happen? Have you ever witnessed this on the island? People doing this, people driving like this. They'll get questions like that. And maybe Augusta will try to keep that quiet. They have a way of controlling those things within the media. And maybe they'll make a statement, and maybe we'll know a lot more in 3 weeks. I'm almost sure we will, as far as the way this exactly went down. But it is a sad thing. Again, there was a lot of optimism after Tiger's TGL debut earlier this week, and I actually didn't watch it. I only saw the news about it, but there was a lot written about it, and
Yeah.
he really is the needle mover. I've
Yeah.
witnessed it personally, and it was starting to move the needle a little bit at a time of year where basketball's wrapping up, Major League Baseball's opening weekend is happening all across the nation and in different parts of the world. But golf does kind of take center stage that first weekend of Augusta, and Tiger being a part of it, even just a participant in Tuesday night's Champions Dinner, is always kind of a way to kind of get the week kicked off. And this does stain that a little bit
Drew.
and temper a little bit of the media expectation.
Yeah. So Drew, if you had to make a prediction, does he show up and does he compete at Augusta?
100% he shows up for the Champions Dinner because that is a private night that he truly enjoys.
Mm-hmm.
There's photos yesterday of him standing outside his car. We've already referenced that.
Yeah.
So the fact that he wasn't catastrophically injured like he was in his wreck in Palos Verdes, California, he'll be able to attend.
Yeah.
And it is a very private thing. He can
Yeah.
get to Daniel Field in Augusta, where all the private jets are, get to Augusta. They can keep the camera lenses from seeing him get out of a car. He
Yeah.
can get into that Champions Dinner and out without anybody taking a photograph. That tells me he will be there. Whether or not he's listed on a tee sheet for Thursday's first round, I would give that a 50-50 right now. I was more
Okay.
70, 75, 25 in favor of it yesterday at this time.
Yeah. Agreed.
I'll drop that back to 50-50 now, simply because I mean, they say there's no injury, but I've been in car accidents. I'm sure you have as well. There's a soreness that happens, and sometimes it's that 48, 72 hours after you,
Yeah.
boy,
Yeah.
that right there doesn't feel right. And you're
Yeah.
wearing a seatbelt. I'm sure he was, because he wasn't injured, and that type of incident, if you're not wearing a seatbelt, that could cause injury. So that's his left shoulder, taking the seatbelt, his waist, his lumbar region of his spine. Who knows what kind of twisting happened there that may not even appear until tomorrow. And then all of a sudden, we got a whole nother ball of wax to tend to get
Mm-hmm.
him ready. So that's why my expectation of him competing, but he was there last week in Augusta. So I know all signs were pointing to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I will go coin flip now, just based on don't know what the next 48 hours holds.
Yeah. And I think mentally, if he wants to deal with all of this, right? If he wants to stand in front of cameras and people are asking the question, right? Does he want to deal with that? Like you said, Tuesday night's no problem. He can get in, get out. Um, but
I
does he
was
want to be
I
on the
was on
TV?
the grounds. I was on the grounds at Augusta National the Monday of 2010 when he returned from his car accident, when with his infidelity and all
Mhm.
that, when he ran into the fire hydrant
Yep.
in his neighborhood in Orlando. I was
Yep.
there that Monday. I was walking with the group. The seemed like 20,000 people following Tiger, Fred Couples, and I think there was a third in the group, but I know it was Tiger and Freddie playing together.
Yeah.
And it was 100% positive for Tiger. The crowd was going bananas, cheering him on. There's I don't know what the reason is, but he is very popular at Augusta. Maybe it's the five green jackets, and people just want to see the Babe Ruth of their generation
Sure.
continue to be the Babe Ruth of their generation. So people my age and older that have watched him from 97 on winning those tournaments. And even I've got a picture up here behind me of an amateur Tiger Woods playing a practice round at the Masters with Jack and Arnie. And I remember that. That was mid 90s. And that's kind of when I started coming into the game and understanding how important that event was. And that particular practice round is a pretty famous one. And I've actually got some documents from that practice round signed by these guys. So again, it's a big deal there. I'm
Yeah.
from there. I'm from
I
that
know.
part of the world. It's not just in my blood. My family that does not participate in golf, they don't play golf, they don't really watch golf, but they attend and they watch the Masters because it's our hometown event. It's a big deal to everybody in Georgia, especially Eastern Georgia, and everybody supports him there. So he knows he's experienced um, unbelievable unanimous support at that tournament, coming back from one of the most embarrassing things a grown man can come back from, which is the public listing of his infidelities.
Yeah.
And fortunately, at that time, his kids were too young to kind of see all the tabloids. I'm sure they're aware of it. And I'm sure there's been conversations within their family regarding those events. But this event won't nearly get to that level of tabloid journalism and the smearing of him that did. So that being said, I think if he shows up, the crowd will love him for it. And I think he knows that. And that's probably why, if you ask me in a couple of days, my coin flip may go back up to my previous
Okay.
75 in favor of him playing. Because if he can physically do it, I know emotionally, especially right now, emotionally, that it will be a good thing for him.
I think he doesn't play. I think I'm going 80% chance he doesn't play. I think he'll be there on Tuesday to do the dinner and get out of town. I don't think at this stage in his life he wants the questions, he wants the cameras, and I'm not so sure he can even physically do the walk. We saw what happened last time he tried. So I'm going 80% chance he does not play, 20% play. But
As
ultimately,
somebody,
moving,
as somebody who
yeah,
knows that property and that membership pretty well, they have a real good way of controlling narratives. And Tiger may, as a five-time champ, may ask them and may feel comfortable asking them, hey, do you guys mind if we just maybe just ask the media just to focus on what happens on the golf course?
that
And,
doesn't work
and
in 2026.
again, uh, you go back in time when you step on that property. There's
I
no cell
understand that, but
phones there.
this ain't this
There's
ain't
none of that.
this
And
isn't 2000. This isn't 2001. This
okay,
isn't
I think
1997.
that the narratives can be controlled. I think it would behoove Tiger to have his own statement. They allow former champions to go into the media center and say their piece about certain things. Tiger has done this in the past at Augusta. It is a
I don't I
great
don't I don't think
venue.
I don't think listen, I don't think Tiger Woods as a former champion can come into the presser that he's gonna do, because he'll have to do it, and not expect people to ask about this.
But I know how things are done there. There will be a member who's the media liaison who will
Hmm.
be sitting in that dais next
Hmm.
to Tiger. And every media member that asks a question, this is what maybe the public doesn't see if you've never been inside that room. When Scottie Worldwide asked that question, not only is Tiger Woods taking note of who's asking that question, so is the media liaison, and there are other green jackets along the walls in that room taking note of things. And everybody that's going to be there covering the 2026 Masters desperately wants to cover the 2027 Masters. Remember that.
Understood.
That does make a difference. And you
Understood.
may
But
ask a
understood.
question, but you may not pursue it down the avenue you think you should. And even your editor back at home in Sydney, Australia, or Edinburgh, Scotland, or San
Yep.
Francisco, California, they may want you to push, but you can feel the eyes on you and you
Yeah.
won't ask that follow up.
I hear what you're
Not at
saying. I
Augusta.
hear what you're saying,
You'll ask it at Shinnecock, but you will not ask it at
but
Augusta.
also too, I think the world's a little different. I think with digital
Hmm.
media and how many podcasts and things like that are out there now, I don't think going to the press room and asking face to face means the same thing that it did 15, 20 years ago.
Okay. I think there's going to be some controls put in place for
Well,
all
which is
media
why
that's
I go back
emanating
to my
out of
point.
there.
Like I don't think he wants to even have that on Augusta, so I don't think he'll show up.
Oh, I don't think, and see, I think he knows that he'll be protected there. And this actually could be one of those things where he doesn't have to do a presser. They just let him go play. Let him go play with his friends in practice rounds, or maybe he doesn't even show up for practice rounds. Tuesday night champions dinner. Again, maybe it's an amended schedule based on the media obligations that the media might think he owes them. And he'll just kind of totally skirt around them, come in the side door, first tee on Thursday. Here we go.
Yeah, we'll
It
see.
it will be the story of this Masters, whether
No doubt.
Rory likes it or not. I honestly think that's good news for Rory
Yeah, I
because
agree.
if you're Rory McIlroy and you've just won your first Masters in 20 something tries, maybe not that many, boy, trying to become only the fourth man to ever repeat as champion, that's a lot of pressure and that's a lot of internal pressure. And now, guess what? Rory McIlroy may play a practice round with no media around him because Tiger's on the other nine and everybody is tasked with
Wow,
following that to see how that's
that's
going.
that's good
Wouldn't
for
that be a
Rory.
nice break?
That's good for Harry and Rory down there.
Well, and it's good for Scottie Scheffler and Ted. I mean, all the guys that would it's good for Bryson and Greg Bodine. All the guys that are the favorites, they kind of are pulling for Tiger to be there because that takes a lot of heat off of their plate early in the week.
Okay. All right. Well, Drew, moving on, keeping in same golf, you did something we haven't seen you do in a while this week.
Yeah.
You were carrying a bag in a men's professional golf event. So, how did it feel just to be back and be part of the juice? And what was the feeling like? Because
Well,
I know you've wanted to come back for a while, and this is a cool opportunity, and sounds like a cool boss you're working for. So, just take our listeners, kind of just your feelings of being back in the mix of it.
well, yeah. For those that aren't aware, Dylan Stewart, a Corn Ferry professional, played his college golf at Oklahoma State, one of the Cowboys. Coach Alan Bratton, Coach Donnie Darr helped develop him at Oklahoma State. He won last year on PGA Tour Americas in Canada, so he's already a winner of a PGA Tour sanctioned event. He is a rookie on the Corn Ferry Tour. We started this week in Savannah at the Landings Golf Club. Unfortunately, did not make the weekend. So I've already come down here to Florida to get ready for next week's event, the Lecom Suncoast Classic in Lakewood Ranch. Hopefully we can kind of get over the hump for our first time together and make the weekend here at Lakewood and hopefully get him a good result, help him climb the standings. Really good guy. Plays a left to right fade, really powerful. Only hit his last drive yesterday, 365 down the middle. Hardest hole on the golf course statistically, and he hit driver sand wedge and almost had a birdie putt. If his caddy was better at reading greens, maybe he would have carded a three and gone into the scoring tent a little happier. Missed cut by a few, and really it was just some couple of swings, really two swings really kept him from playing the weekend. And I tried to remind him of that as he was kind of down on himself. He's 24 years old, and he is a really good young man. He's a good kid. He's a Christian, and he's kind of hired me because I'm a believer and he wants me to kind of be a good influence to him. So that's a lot of pressure for me because I have to try to remember why I'm there at all times, birdies, bogeys, and in between. I have to be kind of this even keel, sunny side up. And that's not always easy, as you know, especially your first week with the guy. You don't know how he
Sure.
reacts to everything. He
Yeah.
doesn't know you. So you just kind of try to play it down the middle. And I think we got along great. We actually started the week. I approached him with my hand out in the parking lot, and he put his arms around me and hugged me. That was how we began our relationship.
So
So
cool.
really good kid. His pastor flew in and spent a couple days with us. I was staying with my best friend who's a deacon at his church. So we had a lot of believers around us, and actually Dylan, myself, his pastor, and my friend the deacon, we all went to dinner Thursday night, and we ended up having these little mini conversations, each of us, and it was just really uplifting time for all of us. And
Cool.
we're going to continue on next week and hopefully again make the weekend. But really talented kid. He's one of those. And you understand this from being in this business so long. Pretty typical young player where he plays the hard holes really good and then gets really excited on the easy holes and doesn't execute the way he wants. And you're like, okay, hey, the way you played the number one hole on the course, if you could play 15, 16, 17, 18 the same way, we might
Yeah.
still be in Savannah playing golf.
Uh,
And he knows that. Like, that's just that youthful exuberance, that emotional side that professional golfers have, where they are trying to knock every flagstick out of the hole as often as possible. And we had a situation yesterday where we hit it. He, again, pump swung 340 something on a par five. We're hitting a 7-iron into a par five on the men's tour. That's not a real common thing. And it was one of those. His expectation level, as you know, we've got to always manage those within a round. His expectation level goes up. Okay,
sure.
I need to hit this really close. The guys that we're playing with that he outdrove, one guy hit it to 2 feet, the other one hit it to three with longer clubs. So
Yeah.
now, the crowd's expecting us. He's expecting himself to hole it out for a double eagle. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the only rational thing that you could think at that moment when you're in the moment. And he hits it out left. He's mad at himself. And I'm walking up there saying, hey, man, this is a great position. Easy chip. Let's get one in close, give ourselves an opportunity. He hits really a poor chip, hits it about 12 feet, but he cans it for a birdie. And I said, hey, listen, that wasn't pretty, but we accomplished the goal. It's not a beauty pageant, it's a math problem.
Yeah.
And he kind of looked at me, nodded his head like, yeah, and again, that's maybe one of the reasons I'm there is just to bring a little perspective to that.
So cool.
Listen, we didn't get the roars our playing partners got by hitting fantastic shots, but we were still successful in that moment.
So
And
cool.
that's such a huge part of the game is just managing expectations, putting things in perspective in the moment, and then trying to just clear the mainframe and go get ready for the next shot and do, as we always say, try to stay in neutral. You don't want to
Yeah.
kick yourself when you're down, and you don't want to pat yourself too much when you're up. You just want to stay in neutral and just execute as well as you can, as often as you can. And so that's what we're going to kind of get started tomorrow afternoon. I'm gonna go out there and do some coursework, and fortunately, working, as you know, once you start working with a player multiple weeks, you start to see the course a particular way. Okay,
You
this,
have to.
yeah, this
Yeah.
this will be pleasing to the eye. Okay, this may be a challenge, and you start kind of formulating your sales pitches. Okay, this might be a challenge, so maybe I lay some groundwork on Tuesday, and we get a little more comfortable, and then come Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we have a better chance of executing as if we saw this raw.
Yeah.
So
No.
I'm excited. He's a good kid. He's got putting a lot of faith in me. So I
Yeah.
like the pressure, but there is pressure there to perform.
Well, it's cool. Yeah, I was checking the leaderboard all week for you guys and seeing how you guys were doing. And I know you've kind of been sitting back and waiting for a really cool opportunity to get back
Yeah.
out there. So I couldn't be happier for him or for you. And I'm excited to see kind of this new team and what you guys accomplish out on the Corn Ferry Tour.
Well, buddy, I appreciate it. I appreciate your support. I was also following you and your boss. You
Hmm.
guys um, didn't get the cards you wanted, but
No.
sounds like some progress is being made. And again, we practice progress, not perfection in this game, and it sounds like a positive week for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I think, saw a lot more birdies today, saw a lot more, or this week saw a lot more fairways, and it's a process, and I think, everyone goes through a process to try to, when they're not playing great golf. And this is the other side of it that I think some of our listeners and some of the aspiring caddies probably don't see a lot. And that's you just got to keep hanging in there and keep fighting, even when you don't have your best. And it doesn't change my job. I prep the same way. I give numbers the same way. From as far as I know, boss is happy with the job I'm doing. And so, I don't think she wants to change a whole lot. And I think she just understands that she's going through a process. Her coach understands that. I've talked to a lot of them. And ultimately, I think, and I know, and maybe not me, but I know she'll turn it around. And unfortunately, it's just going to take time.
Well, and you've got a couple more events, and then you guys return to El Caballero, where you were victorious last year. So that hopefully will get some good, stepping on that property.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sure will bring some good thoughts.
she'll be able to get back to Baton Rouge, a place that she loves, feels like she's part of that community, be around her college coach and be around the team a little bit. So I think that's good for her, and I think the vibes there will get her in a mind frame. Let's go kick ass and let's go win this tournament again, type of thing. So
To that point, Dylan actually lived with Victor Hovland for a year or two when
okay,
Victor first turned pro. And he told a fun story about Victor getting bounced in the WGC match play in Austin, Texas,
okay,
before they got to the elimination rounds and drove through the night from Austin to Stillwater and showed up Saturday morning on the tee with the Oklahoma State Cowboys collegiate team because he wanted to continue to compete that weekend. And it actually throttled him and kind of gave him some good thoughts moving into the rest of his PGA Tour schedule. And
there you
it was a
go.
positive thing for Victor, could be a positive thing for Ingrid doing the exact same thing at her alma mater.
Absolutely. So
So,
yeah, looking forward to that, and yeah, we go from here, and it's just golf, man.
well, and it's funny you talk about, the guys that are listening that want to hear both sides of it, the grind. And yesterday, Dylan and I stood outside the scoring trailer for 918s, the same unit.
Yeah,
And so everybody coming off the course, is right in the same place. And we stood there for maybe 30, 40 minutes, had a wonderful, uplifting conversation, complimentary of each other. And hey, we're doing things good. But it's one of those when you have a conversation right there at scoring, player caddy kind of face to face. We got
yeah,
eyeballs from everybody.
of
And I'm sure
course,
everybody's like, oh man, this guy's getting canned.
yeah, of
And
course,
and
of
so
course.
it's kind of one of those,
Yeah,
hey,
no, listen, and
we
like
missed the cut, but we had a great week together personally. Professionally, we wish things had gone differently,
for sure,
but personally, we I think laid the groundwork and can continue to build this week. And that's really what we were discussing. But it is a funny sport, and it's kind of the knitting circle that we work in. You could see everybody looking, going, "Man, that guy just got out here, and he's already getting cut loose."
yeah. This ball head, Iron Man, big old arms. That's all right. You'll show him something next week.
Well, and again, he's going to show himself something, and I kind of gave him. I mean, I kind of gave him a pep talk and said, "Hey, man, you're closer than you think, and every pro hates hearing that, right? That's
Of course, but it's the
like
truth.
kissing your sister, but
It's the
it's
truth.
very true." And I told him to kind of marinate on some of the positive things driving south down here to Central Florida, and hopefully we can go out and just have a little bit better success this week than last and start building. So.
Amazing.
Well, to all our listeners, thank you. Everybody tuning in from the Back Nine Brief, thank you guys. Birdie Brands, still our sponsor, but we got a
Yes.
little update on Birdie Brands, don't we?
The
The
CEO.
CEO of Birdie
Oh,
Brands is
yes, yes.
he's getting a little busy this time of year.
Yeah, no, so like, another good old boy who took some time away from being inside the ropes, is back inside the ropes, caddying for Roseanne. They started last week over at Sharon Heights, had an okay week. I'd just call it an okay week, but they're playing a really good week in Arizona, and I'm happy for Will. I'm happy for Rose, a great young kid, super, super nice. And Will, I think you could tell the way he's walking, he's just a little bit more excited. He's walking a little bit more positivity. I went to register last week. He gave me a big old hug, and you can just tell he's fired up to be back inside the ropes. And I've told him many times that's where he belongs. Even though he's a great CEO and obviously has supported this show, and we love him and his businesses, but Will's a caddy, and when the saying goes is once you're a caddy, you're always a caddy. So I don't think you can take that out away from Will, and it's so good to see that he's having some early success here with ropes.
Well, I think they will be a good team. I think again, both very strong with their faith, and I think
Hmm.
that's one thing that's kind of brought them together, and that's something that they'll lean on both in good and bad times. It's always good to have like-minded people that way, even though you're vastly different personalities. It's nice to kind of have the same grounding, in your faith when you can get that kind of teamwork. And I think Will be a fantastic asset for Rose, who won her professional debut.
Hmm.
And then maybe the expectations, as we've already discussed in this show, changed. And she was also handling a full course load at Stanford University. I
Yeah,
believe I read she did 22
yeah,
hours
yeah.
in her last quarter semester, whatever they're on. 22 hours at Stanford, and still trying to maintain a professional level of expertise, both fitness wise and skill wise. Not an easy thing to do. So as the season progresses, I expect her to find a few things, maybe gain a little bit more confidence that she is the world class player that she showed in her professional debut, and of course at Stanford in her college career. So I think Willie D's along for a fun ride this year, as you are, as it sounds like you guys are progressing. And maybe I can pick up the slack over here on the Corn Ferry Tour and give the fans something to watch
I
on
have
the weekend as well.
high expectations, Drew, because those same things that I said about Will, I believe in you, right? And
Uh,
I believe this is what you're best at, and I believe there's a certain part of you that sheds more light on other people when you're happy, and I think you're the
hmm.
happiest when you're carrying a golf bag.
Well, I do agree with that. It is, man, it is fun to be out there. It's fun to be competing. It just, again, it's kind of one of those, everything slows down for me and it just makes sense. I don't know why. I grew up
Yeah.
playing baseball and didn't even know golf existed really until about this stuff started happening in the mid 90s. But for some reason, this business has found me, and I seem to be okay at it. And I really, really enjoy being on the grass and being inside those ropes when the gun goes off. I actually got a little nervous on the first tee on
Of
Thursday,
course.
like
Of
good
course.
nerves, like, man, I'm doing this again. Here we go,
Yeah, of course.
he's hitting the shot and the hole doesn't fit his eye. And I'm nervous going, okay, just pull this off. And he pumps one down the middle. And I said, okay, we're off.
Yeah.
And again, if you don't get nervous on the first tee when you're doing this, if you're listening to this show and you are a caddy and you don't get excited on the first tee, man, go do something else that makes you happy, because there's other guys that want to do this. But if you're like me and you get excited on the first tee, don't be afraid to show it, and just enjoy it in your own mind, in your own way. We got to kind of keep a certain rapport out there for our pros. But embrace the nerves. I love it.
Also, can I say one thing about that? If any of our listeners out there who are interested and want to know what goes on in between the ropes, and you get the question all the time, like, what do you guys talk about, or what do you say, or how do you say things? The the Chasing Sundays, the film that they did about the Players Championship with NFL Films.
Hmm,
It's called Chasing Sundays. It's on YouTube. You can go watch it. It's about an hour long.
hmm.
But it is such a they did Brady Stockton and Chris Gotterup, Akshay and
Hmm.
Joey, um, and Siwu, and just
Siwa
the
and
behind the
Manuel Villegas.
yeah, exactly,
Okay.
and just the behind the scenes and how they talk to their guys, and it's awesome. And so
Okay.
it's probably the most realistic behind the scene caddy player dynamic thing I've seen them do in a long time. And so I would go watch it. If you really want a good picture of what goes on, go watch it.
Well, I've got one funny story for those that want to know exactly how serious it is. On the weekends on the PGA Tour, I was working the Cognizant a couple of weeks ago in Palm Beach Gardens, And I was working with Smiley with NBC. We get the Nico Echeverria assignment on Saturday because he's making a surge. And he happens to be playing with the two biggest clowns on the PGA Tour, Joel Damon and Mark Hubbard. And Nico plays first into the 12th green, hits a really good shot. And I'm walking kind of down the middle. Joel's on the left, Mark's on the right. And Nico and I kind of come together shoulder to shoulder. And we've met before. And so we're friendly and we can say hey to each other. And kind of be in each other's space and not really, I'm not getting in the way, certainly, which is my biggest fear. So Nico and I kind of come together and we look, Mark and Joel are, 10, 15 yards in front of Nico. And all of a sudden, Joel looks at Mark. Mark looks at Joel. Their balls are pretty close distance. And we all know what's happening. And Joel puts out a fist. Mark puts out a fist. 1, 2, 3. And Mark's paper beat Joel's rock. Mark plays first in the 12th green. And I look at Nico and I said, people wonder what pro golf is like. And then they see these two idiots playing and they may get the wrong impression. But that actually happened. Paper, rock, scissors happened to determine order of play in the 12th fairway on Saturday afternoon at the Cognizant. Not sure I'd recommend that in your member guest if you're an amateur at home, but that's what Joel Damon and Mark Hubbard did just about a month ago.
Amen. It doesn't get any more
Fun
beautiful
guys to
than
be
those
around.
two.
Yeah. So, and if you need to know the kind of guy Mark Hubbard is, I think his social media handle is Homeless Hubs
Yes.
because he lives out of suitcases as a pro golfer. So that's kind of the way he looks at the world. So, pro golfer who calls himself homeless. There you go. So, all right. Well, everybody, thanks for watching the show. Scottie, thanks for making a little time for me out in the desert.
Yeah, buddy.
On to the next for both of us. Hopefully, a little more success. Ingrid Lindblad on the LPGA. Please follow them. And I'll be with Dylan Stewart this week at the Lecom Suncoast Classic. Maybe if you're in the area, come out and say hello. Thanks for watching. Scottie, any final thoughts before we go?
No, just excited. Obviously, hopefully turn it around soon and play some better golf. And I'll obviously be watching you guys this upcoming week as well.
Well, give us a listen, give us a like, share, subscribe, all those things that everybody asks you to do. You keep doing that, and we'll keep giving you the world of golf from my side of the bag.